It began with a tremor. Not the kind that shakes buildings, the kind that rattles your bones from the inside as if something vast had just exhaled beneath the earth. The kind that makes every animal in the forest stop breathing. A wildlife rescue officer named Mara Vale was the first to hear it. She'd been tracking strange frequencies in the mountains north of Vancouver, pulses that didn't match any known seismic pattern. The readings came from an abandoned logging site, a scar of blackened soil where nothing had grown in years. But that night, her instruments went berserk. Every dial slammed to the red. The air tasted metallic like blood on a copper wire, and then silence. Her body camera caught what came next, the light. A blinding, soundless ripple burst from the tree line, bending the air as if space itself had turned to liquid. Branches stretched. Time seemed to lag. Mara's voice was barely audible. "Oh my God, they're back." What did she mean, back? Authorities never explained. The footage vanished within hours, but one frame survived, leaked from an anonymous server 2 weeks later. It showed something no one could rationalize. A small, silver-skinned creature lying motionless in Mara's arms. Not human, not any animal we've ever catalogued. The public assumed it was another hoax, until witnesses started disappearing. By the third night, 5 search drones vanished over the forest. All 5 transmitted the same final feed. Silhouettes, moving in perfect formation through the fog, massive and graceful, their eyes burning white. Locals began to whisper about the pack. The rumor was that they weren't ships or entities. They were beings, biological and coordinated, hunting for something lost. But it wasn't vengeance that drove them at first. It was grief. When the military finally entered the zone, they found Mara's camp torn apart. No body, no blood, just her journal, pages warped by the rain. The last entry, dated October 7th, 2025, read, "It cries like a child when it dreams. Whatever it is, it trusts me." The it she referred to became known as the cub. Witnesses described hearing a lullaby echoing through the forest at night, a faint metallic hum that made animals freeze mid-step. Hunters spoke of seeing pale shapes watching from the ridgeline, tall, sleek, their eyes like liquid glass. And then came the sound again, and that subterranean heartbeat, louder than before. Some said it wasn't a call, it was a locator. The pack had found their way back. At 2:14 a.m., satellite imagery caught a heat bloom in the forest. 12 distinct sources moving toward the ruins of Mara's last known location. In infrared, they looked like wolves made of light, but their gait was wrong. Too synchronized, too deliberate. One of them was enormous, towering, the clear leader. They called it Alpha. By dawn, rescue teams reached the valley. No Mara. No cub. Only a trail of scorched soil leading to a collapsed cabin. Inside, they found something that froze every man in that squad. A small being, silver-skinned, sleeping peacefully on a human chest. The body beneath it, human, lifeless, was still warm. They couldn't explain how the creature's presence seemed to warp the air around it, or how the frost outside melted into steam the moment they stepped near. But the most terrifying part wasn't what they saw. It was what they heard. Footsteps, dozens of them, and surrounding the cabin, silent and heavy as if gravity itself bowed to their approach. Every soldier raised his weapon. The temperature dropped. Then a voice, deep, resonant, vibrating through their skulls rather than the air, whispered only one word. "Return." And from the doorway, Alpha stood. Its form was colossal, half organic, half spectral, its surface shifting like moonlight through water. But the way it looked at the child, the cub sleeping against the human chest, wasn't with rage. It was recognition. What happened next? No one outside that valley ever confirmed. The footage cut out the instant the team's cameras went white, but one soldier survived long enough to transmit a single radio message before vanishing into static. His final words were simple, trembling, and impossible. They didn't come to destroy. They came to forgive. The valley was sealed off within hours. Airspace restricted, communication jammed, roads barricaded under the pretense of a chemical spill. But the locals knew better. They saw the lights above the forest that night, silent, fluid, not the mechanical flicker of helicopters. Something alive was moving through the clouds. Sea was erratic, body temperature several degrees below normal. His skin carried faint luminescent streaks, like veins of light moving just beneath the surface. When questioned, Ezra kept repeating one sentence. She gave it back. At first, no one understood what he meant, but when investigators analyzed the cabin wreckage, they found traces of DNA that matched two impossible profiles, one human, one unknown. The second wasn't like any terrestrial life form. Its structure was crystalline, fractal patterns that replicated light the way coral replicates salt water. It wasn't just organic, it was engineered. Ezra's memories came in fragments. He remembered entering the cabin, seeing the creature, the cub, sleeping on Mara Vale's chest. He remembered the warmth in the air, the soft pulse that seemed to sync with his own heartbeat. Then Alpha appeared. The soldiers panicked. Gunfire erupted. The sound was muffled as if the bullets were moving through syrup. And then, nothing. Ezra said the air folded. Time slowed. He saw the soldiers' bodies suspended mid-motion, shells floating like dust motes. Alpha turned its gaze to Mara and lowered itself to one knee, or what looked like a knee. The others behind it, the pack, followed in unison, their eyes dimming. The cub stirred, reaching its tiny hand toward the creature's face. Mara's voice trembled as she whispered, "It's okay, it knows me." Ezra swore Alpha responded, not with sound but with memory. Images poured into his mind, stars collapsing, a planet shattering, a colony scattered across galaxies. He saw an ancient pact, a species who could move between worlds not by ships, but through resonance. They had hidden their young among other civilizations to preserve what was left of them, and somehow one had ended up here. The cub wasn't an invader, it was a refugee. Alpha had come to retrieve it, not through violence but through kinship. But there was something different about the child now. It had bonded with Mara, symbiotically. Their neural patterns had begun to merge. Alpha could see it, feel it. Mara wasn't just caring for the creature, she was becoming part of it. That's what she gave it back meant. Ezra described how Alpha placed its luminous hand over Mara's heart. The light surged, enveloping them both. The cub dissolved into radiance, flowing into Mara's chest like liquid fire. Her body lifted slightly, eyes glowing pure white. And then the cabin exploded in a wave of silence. When Ezra woke, everything was gone. The forest was leveled, scorched into glass. He followed the faint footprints until they vanished near the tree line. And above him, hovering like a wound in the sky, was a vast, circular rift, pulsing with the same rhythm he'd felt in his chest. He said he felt her presence still, Mara's, not gone, transformed, communing with them. The government's response was immediate. They captured Ezra, isolated him, tried to strip the memories using experimental EMR therapy. But the more they erased, the more the patterns in his skin spread. Within days, he became a living transmitter, pulsing faintly in sync with the mountain itself. Scientists claimed he was contaminated, but others whispered that he was chosen, that Alpha had left a mark, a link, between their world and ours. 3 weeks later, the tremors returned. This time they came from under the ocean. Satellites recorded shapes moving beneath the waves off the Pacific coast, enormous, coordinated, the same bioluminescent signatures seen in the forest. The pack wasn't gone. They had multiplied. Somewhere in the deep, a new resonance had begun. The message Ezra left, scrawled on the wall of his containment cell before vanishing without a trace, read simply, "When the child wakes again, she won't remember who she was, but she'll remember who she loved." Ezra said the air folded. Time slowed. He saw the soldiers' bodies suspended mid-motion, shells floating like dust motes. Alpha turned its gaze to Mara and lowered itself to one knee, or what looked like a knee. The others behind it, the pack, followed in unison, their eyes dimming. The cub stirred, reaching its tiny hand toward the creature's face. Mara's voice trembled as she whispered, "It's okay, it knows me." Ezra swore Alpha responded, not with sound but with memory. Images poured into his mind, stars collapsing, a planet shattering, a colony scattered across galaxies. He saw an ancient pact, a species who could move between worlds not by ships, but through resonance. They had hidden their young among other civilizations to preserve what was left of them, and somehow one had ended up here. The cub wasn't an invader, it was a refugee. Alpha had come to retrieve it, not through violence, but through kinship. But there was something different about the child now. It had bonded with Mara, symbiotically. Their neural patterns had begun to merge. Alpha could see it, feel it. Mara wasn't just caring for the creature, she was becoming part of it. That's what she gave it back meant. Ezra described how Alpha placed its luminous hand over Mara's heart. The light surged, enveloping them both. The cub dissolved into radiance, flowing into Mara's chest like liquid fire. Her body lifted slightly, eyes glowing pure white. And then the cabin exploded in a wave of silence. When Ezra woke, everything was gone. The forest was leveled, scorched into glass. He followed the faint footprints until they vanished near the tree line. And above him, hovering like a wound in the sky, was a vast, circular rift, pulsing with the same rhythm he'd felt in his chest. He said he felt her presence still, Mara's, not gone, transformed, communing with them. The government's response was immediate. They captured Ezra, isolated him, tried to strip the memories using experimental EMR therapy. But the more they erased, the more the patterns in his skin spread. Within days, he became a living transmitter, pulsing faintly in sync with the mountain itself. Scientists claimed he was contaminated, but others whispered that he was chosen, that Alpha had left a mark, a link, between their world and ours. 3 weeks later, the tremors returned. This time they came from under the ocean. Satellites recorded shapes moving beneath the waves off the Pacific coast, enormous, coordinated, the same bioluminescent signatures seen in the forest. The pack wasn't gone. They had multiplied. Somewhere in the deep, a new resonance had begun. The message Ezra left, scrawled on the wall of his containment cell before vanishing without a trace, read simply, "When the child wakes again, she won't remember who she was, but she'll remember who she loved." They called the incident the resonance bloom. It spread faster than wildfire, invisible, inaudible, unstoppable. The first signs weren't in the sky or the sea, but in the human heart. People across the Pacific Northwest began to experience synchronized dreams, the same recurring image. A woman standing at the edge of a vast ocean, holding something small and glowing against her chest. When they woke, they could all hum the same note. A single trembling tone that vibrated metal, warped glass, and made power grids flicker. At first it seemed like coincidence. But when satellite arrays in California, Japan, and Greenland all detected the same frequency pulsing through the ionosphere, scientists realized it wasn't a dream. It was a signal. And it was coming from her, from Mara. Ezra Klein had vanished 2 weeks before the first global hum began. But surveillance picked up faint energy spikes matching the patterns once visible in his veins, traces of him moving, slowly, eastward, following something. He wasn't running from the phenomenon. He was drawn to it. By the time he reached the coast, the shoreline itself had changed. The ocean was glowing. Threads of light beneath the surface, weaving together into vast geometric constellations. And at the horizon, the water rose and fell, like the breath of something sleeping. He wasn't alone. Thousands had gathered in silence, their eyes fixed on the horizon, listening. They didn't know why they'd come, only that they felt called. That night, the sea split open. The footage, suppressed but leaked by a satellite tech who couldn't bear to delete it, shows a luminous sphere rising from the depths, dripping light like molten glass. And within it, a silhouette. A woman. Her hair moved as though underwater, her skin pale silver, veins glowing faintly beneath. In her arms, a shape pulsing with the same rhythm as the sky. Mara Vale was alive, or something wearing her memory was. The crowd fell to their knees, overcome not by fear but awe. Every instrument in a 100-mile radius registered the same phenomenon: elevated serotonin, neural synchronization, heartbeats aligning. For 3 minutes, humanity shared one rhythm. Then she spoke. Not aloud, but directly into every mind. Her voice wasn't human anymore. It was layered, multiple tones folding through each other, as though a choir of galaxies spoke through her lungs. We were not your gods. We were your reflection. She showed them visions, civilizations older than stars, the extinction of her kind, the desperate act of sending their young, the cubs, across dimensions to worlds that might cradle them. Earth had been one of those worlds. You called it invasion, she said. It was remembrance. Ezra stepped forward, calling her name. Mara, it's me, come back. She turned to him, and for an instant something human flickered in her expression, a recognition, a sorrow. You carried the signal, she whispered. You are part of it now. And before anyone could react, the sphere expanded, enveloping him in light. Sensors went blind. When the glow faded, both of them were gone. Only the ocean remained, perfectly still, and a faint shimmer above the waves like heat rising from a road. In the days that followed, the resonance spread worldwide. Northern lights appeared in places that had never seen them. Communication satellites stopped functioning, not from damage, but interference. The same tone that had haunted dreams now pulsed beneath every broadcast frequency, woven into the electromagnetic field of the planet itself. Some said it was a form of awakening, humanity's evolution accelerated by contact with an alien consciousness. Others feared it was assimilation, a slow rewriting of everything we are. 3 months later, an observatory in Chile captured something impossible. 12 objects entering Earth's atmosphere arranged in a perfect circle. The pack had returned, but this time, they didn't land. They hovered, watching, waiting, as if assessing what had become of the one they lost. And somewhere beneath the Pacific, something stirred in response. Not hostile, not divine, but deeply familiar. A low hum that resonated in the bones of every living thing. It wasn't vengeance they'd brought, it was awakening. A single line of encrypted data was discovered days later on a defunct NASA server, coordinates written in alien symbols. Decoded, they pointed to a region deep beneath the ocean floor. The file name? Alpha stood again. The world had changed by the time the final transmission came through. Cities still stood, but they didn't sound the same. The air was charged, vibrating faintly, like a power line beneath the skin of the planet. People could feel the hum now, every heartbeat sinking to it. Hospitals overflowed with patients whose bodies pulsed with bioluminescent veins. The same shimmering pattern once seen in Ezra. Governments called it electromagnetic contamination. Religious groups called it the voice of return. But the few who'd seen what happened at the coast knew the truth. The resonance wasn't contamination. It was communication. Deep under the Pacific, seismic sensors picked up movement. Massive, slow, deliberate. Not tectonic, not natural. The data formed a pattern. 12 points. The same configuration the pack had formed in orbit. Each pulse synchronized perfectly with the tone humans could now hear without devices. At the Mariana Trench, a research submersible, Odyssey 4, was deployed to investigate. What its crew captured defied physics. Descending into darkness, they reported walls of light beneath the seafloor, columns reaching miles downward, intersecting like arteries of a living planet. And then, in the deepest chamber, they found it. A structure, vast and circular, inscribed with fractal sigils that pulsed in time with the human heartbeat. The lead scientist whispered the name carved into the control console, 3 symbols repeating endlessly. Translated through AI analysis, they formed a word we could understand. Mara! The signal intensified. Earth's magnetic field wavered. Communication grids collapsed. But the Odyssey's internal cameras kept rolling, transmitting one final feed before vanishing forever. The footage was grainy, distorted by pressure and static, but clear enough to see her, Mara, or what she had become. Standing within a vast cathedral of light, her eyes like twin suns, her voice threading through the ocean like silk. The crew floated motionless, their suits glowing. She wasn't killing them, she was changing them. You feared the end, her voice echoed, but there is no end, only return. Behind her the walls opened, revealing not water but stars, an impossible expanse folding inside the earth. The truth wasn't that they came from above. They had always been below. Ezra appeared beside her, his human form barely holding shape. His voice trembled as he looked toward the camera. "We are the bridge," he said. "You were never alone, you were never separate. You were us before you forgot." Then the light surged. Every ocean on Earth responded, tides rising in perfect sync. The hum became a roar, then a silence so deep it felt holy. That night, the world stood still. Satellites recorded a wave of bioluminescence spreading across every coastline. Millions of people standing outside, staring at the sea. Each felt the same thought, not spoken, but felt. Do not fear what you are becoming. The pack descended, 12 radiant forms stretching from horizon to horizon. They hovered above the oceans, forming a circle of light around the planet. The resonance reached its peak, not destructive, but transformative. Skies shimmered with auroras at the equator. Rivers glowed faintly. Forests pulsed as though breathing. Humanity watched as the boundaries between species, technology, and consciousness blurred. The contamination wasn't spreading, it was completing. And then, like a single inhale, the light folded inward. The pack vanished, the hum faded. In their place remained quiet, a quiet too complete to be natural. Weeks passed. The oceans calmed. The world seemed unchanged except for one thing. Children born after the event had eyes that reflected light differently. In their irises shimmered a faint geometric pattern, the same one found carved in the ocean floor. Scientists debated for decades, but those who had felt it, who had heard the hum in their dreams, knew the truth. Humanity had crossed a threshold. The pack hadn't come to take, they had come to remind. And somewhere beneath the waves, in the chamber where Odyssey the Four disappeared, a faint heartbeat still pulses, slow, steady, eternal.